Our movie starts today with a wild hunter named Jave, and we see Jave with the rest of the hunting team. Their mission is to catch rare snakes because they are very valuable due to their skins, which are used to make bags and clothing. After Jave and his team finish hunting, he distributes the earnings to each hunter. However, one of the hunters asks for a higher wage, claiming that he puts his life in danger and that he should at least be compensated for the risks he faces. Jave agrees to his request without discussion, pulls out a larger amount of money, and gives it to the hunter. But at the same time, he takes a knife from his pocket and stabs the hunter, killing him in front of his colleagues. He then takes the money from the hunter's hand and throws it into the water for the snakes, telling the other hunters that this is the punishment for anyone who thinks about taking more than their fair share. This terrifies the hunters and makes them completely abandon the idea. Meanwhile, we see Jave holding a map, and at that moment, he is searching for the massive anaconda snake. We learn that the anaconda is one of the huge and rare snakes and is considered one of the most dangerous animals in the world due to its length and massive size, which enables it to easily prey on a whole human. Jave's goal is to reach the anaconda because its skin is very expensive and could make him rich overnight. Indeed, he manages to reach the location he wants on the map, and there the hunters are surprised by a very large number of snakes, which makes them extremely happy as they begin to gather them to return and sell them. After that, one of the hunters takes them to the boat, where he is terrified to see an anaconda eating a corpse right in front of him. Before he can escape, he finds the anaconda right in front of him in just moments, and it coils around him, making him unable to move. Within a few minutes, the anaconda finishes him off and consumes him, and not only that, but it continues searching through the jungle until it reaches another hunter, whose fate is to become just a meal for the anaconda. At that moment, Jave witnesses what's happening, grabs his rifle to kill the anaconda and achieve his goal, but due to the sound of one of the animals moving, the anaconda shifts and leaves the spot, which frustrates Jave more than worrying about his friends. At the same time, in a poor village, we see a theatrical performance by a struggling circus troupe. Due to a lack of equipment, the show fails, leading the villagers to argue with the circus manager until a girl from the troupe named Lon steps in front of them and manages to stop them. After that, a child in the troupe named Yang asks the manager for his pay, but the manager refuses to give anyone their wages, realizing that they were the reason for the show's failure. At that moment, a young man named Gil walks in to see the manager and, without any introduction, asks him to buy the entire circus troupe for a large sum of money. Naturally, the circus manager doesn't hesitate and agrees to his request. Even the rest of the troupe agree because they will receive multiples of their wages, but Lon refuses to be sold for money, which leads her to leave the circus and walk away. At that moment, a girl named Ellie asks to take Lan's place because she feels jealous of Lon for being the star of the performances, so Gil agrees to her request. The next day, the crew gets ready to travel with Jean, as he informed them that they would be traveling all over China and performing shows everywhere. At that moment, Yang and his brother Daegu are feeling very sad because they will miss Lon, with whom they have spent years together. Meanwhile, Lon is surprised that she hasn't changed her mind about staying with Yang and Daegu, and she doesn't want to leave them alone. This makes everyone feel uneasy as they start preparing for the trip. The captain begins the journey, but he's anxious because he knows the sea is filled with poisonous and dangerous snakes. So, when Lon asks him how long the trip might take, he replies that he can't specify the time, as things can change in that sea in the blink of an eye. Because of the captain's words, Lon feels scared and remains anxious. At the same time, Jean enters a secret room on the ship and talks with his brother, telling him that the plan they've laid out is going exactly as he intended. While Jean is talking, he accidentally drops his phone into the sea, cutting off the connection with his brother. At the same time, a snake attacks the ship and bites Jean hard, making him scream in pain and fear. However, Beirut, who has experience with snakes from his years at sea, finds out that the bite is not venomous and that he won't be harmed. The next day, while the journey continues, the captain spots a wrecked ship in the middle of the sea, preventing them from continuing their journey. To move the ship out of their way, the captain thinks they need to blow it up and break it into smaller pieces. He descends with his crew and distributes dynamite to blow up the ship. As soon as they detonate it, snakes hidden inside the wrecked ship emerge, flying and falling onto the captain's ship, causing everyone to panic and not know how to react. Just then, Lon arrives and uses a powerful water hose to push away all the snakes, successfully saving the passengers from certain death. Meanwhile, Gene is hiding in a room on the ship when a group of snakes attacks him, causing him to scream and fall into the water. Just before he drowns or is attacked by the snakes, he is surprised to find that they saved him because he was trapped in the wreckage and didn't know how to escape. Jave invites them to join him on the trip to repay his debt. At the same time, Daegu feels a sharp pain in his ear, and at that moment, Jave pricks his finger and manages to lure a small snake into Daegu's ear. Meanwhile, Lon watches everything that is happening and shows concern for Jave's strange behavior. That night, we see the captain fishing, and Jave approaches him to talk and gives him a map, asking him to take him to the place marked on it for any price he requests. However, the captain refuses, saying that the place Jave wants to go is cursed, and he can't agree to go there. Jave is upset by this rejection. After a few minutes, the captain notices that his fishing line has snagged something big, so he tries to pull it or reel it in. At that moment, someone appears behind him and pushes him into the sea. The next day, Lon wakes up and asks about the captain, suspecting that Jave is the one who pushed him, and that he is also hooked in the water to lure the Anaconda. However, Jave says he hasn't seen the captain since he woke up, leading Lon to tell the others that the captain is missing and they can't find him. At that moment, Jave feels movement in the water, and he realizes that the Anaconda has arrived. He prepares to hook it as soon as it eats the captain's corpse. Jave starts pulling the Anaconda with the hook, but it proves to be dozens of times stronger, causing Jave to fall into the water. Nevertheless, he doesn't give up and comes out of the sea, trying to catch it again. At that moment, the Anaconda emerges from the water and climbs onto the ship's surface. As soon as everyone sees it, they scream in terror and run everywhere to escape from it. However, the Anaconda settles fully inside the boat, forcing them to blow up the boat and escape into the jungle. At the same time, Jave tells them that he knows every place in the jungle and that he has a boat in there and knows its location. Because of this, he suggests that they continue the journey with him, and at that point, he will save them from dying in the jungle. Jean agrees without hesitation, while Lon rejects his proposal, saying that she doesn't trust him or his intentions, so she won't continue on the road with him. As for Yang and Dai, they decide to stick with Lon. When Jean goes to ask Lon for her opinion, he is shocked to find a large sting on her arm. He realizes that she needs to take an antibiotic as soon as possible, or else the poison will spread through her body within 48 hours, and she will die. He tells them he has antibiotics on his boat, and at that moment, Lon has to continue the journey with him to save her life. Everyone continues their journey with Jave until they reach a river and stop to drink from it, but at the last moment, Jave stops them and reveals that the water here is poison, as evidenced by the insects that died as soon as they got close to it. After that, Jave goes to catch a snake and prepares lunch for them that day. While everyone is eating, a massive snake suddenly appears behind Yang, lunges at him, and pulls him away. At that moment, Yang screams, and Lon tries to rescue him by any means possible until Jave arrives and throws a spear at the snake. At that moment, the snake leaves Yang and escapes. Since the place wasn't safe for them, Jave takes them to a cave to spend the night and continue their journey the next day. At that point, Lon goes to check on Eli and also gives her a piece of chocolate that she had with her since the beginning of the trip. At that moment, Eli shows her emotions and tells Lon that her little brother loves chocolate, sharing stories about him and the rare disease he has, which is why she works above her capacity to provide money for his treatment. For the first time, Lon feels pity for Eli and understands her struggle. Meanwhile, Jave is talking to Jean about his plan, saying that he brought them to the jungle because it's the habitat of the Anaconda snake, which is known to be the most dangerous snake they could encounter. However, its skin is one of the most expensive leathers in the world, and due to that, he will amass a fortune. Jean agrees and reads the plan with him, realizing that the truth is that he bought the circus troupe from the circus manager to kidnap them and sell their parts. They then agree to use the troupe to lure the snake. At the same time, the priest dreams of snakes surrounding them in the cave, which is why he wakes up from his nightmare in a panic. He notices that his cousin is not in the cave with them, and this worries him, so he goes out to search for him. At that moment, he is shocked to find his cousin completely dazed and standing in front of the poisonous river, wanting to throw himself in. The priest runs quickly to catch up with him and wake him up, but unfortunately, he fails, as his cousin has already thrown himself into the river. Not only that, but a massive snake also appears and wraps around him until it kills him, then eats him, while the priest stands helplessly, not knowing how to save him. The priest returns to the cave, scared of what he saw and saddened by the loss of his cousin. The next day, everyone prepares to continue their journey, and Jave tells them that they must cross the river to reach the ship, saying it will be a very dangerous mission. Unfortunately, there's no other way. They listen to him and cross the river. At that moment, they feel the movement of a snake beneath them, so they stop for a few seconds until it passes, and then they continue their journey again. However, it turns out that the snake is still around because, as soon as it moves again, it comes out of the water and attacks the priest, who was the last one in the group. At that moment, everyone is terrified and doesn't know how to save him, unlike Jave, who enjoys hearing the sound of the priest's bones cracking because of the snake wrapping around his body. In the end, they are forced to escape to save their lives, while the priest becomes a meal for the snake. After hours, they finally arrive at the boat, and at that time, Jave rushes ahead and takes a gun from it. He then hands them a medical bag, telling them that this way, he has fulfilled his promise to them, and in exchange for the service they provided him, they must do a service for him. His request is that they help him lure an anaconda. Of course, everyone refuses his request because it's very dangerous, but Jave doesn't listen to them and insists on reaching his goal and hunting the snake no matter what happens. He uses Dai and Yang as bait, while Eli and Lon are tied up so they can help, and Jean prepares a net, holding its rope as he waits for the anaconda to attack at any moment. At that moment, Eli manages to convince Jave that she wants to be with him, and she changes him until she frees herself. At that moment, Eli takes the gun from him, but she is shocked to find the gun empty because the bullets were in Jave's pocket, which he puts in the gun to kill the anaconda. However, at the last moment, Eli manages to free herself and aims the gun at Jave, starting a huge fight between the three of them against Jave. However, in the end, they manage to escape from him. At the same time, a huge snake arrives in the forest, and instead of attacking Yang and Dai, it attacks Jean and kills him. At that moment, Jave appears, in such a tough situation that he can't even resist the snake wrapping around him. Here, Lon takes advantage of the opportunity to escape, but they are surprised when Eli falls due to her injury, knowing that her end is near. Therefore, she asks Lon to take care of her brother and supervise his treatment, and if one day he asks about her, to tell him that she traveled and is living a happy life. Unfortunately, Eli dies in Lan's arms. The others have to escape quickly until they reach the boat. Before they start it, Dai injects Jave with a tranquilizer, and everyone is surprised that Jave is still alive after managing to kill the snake and free himself from it. Jave is able to tie the three of them together and sets a trap around them to catch the anaconda. After a few minutes, the anaconda arrives and approaches Lon and the others in a terrifying and frightening manner. At that moment, Jave closes the net on it, but due to its strength, it manages to free itself and runs toward him. When Jave tries to escape from it, he fails, and the anaconda wraps around him, finishing him off. At the same time, Yang manages to cut the rope and free them and himself, and the three of them run quickly to escape from the anaconda. Everywhere they hid, the anaconda reached them until, in the end, it cornered them. At the last moment, just before it attacks them, a trap set by Jave kills it. Finally, Lon and her friends are free from the danger that surrounded them everywhere, and they return once again with Jave's ship to the city, having been given a new life. And with that, our film's events today come to an end. I hope you enjoyed it. Also, if you liked the video, Don't forget to support us with a like and subscribe.